Alright, so today I wanted to make a video on when will hyper-Bitcoinization happen, or when will the masses adopt Bitcoin. Now again, obviously nobody knows. Again, it might never happen. My prediction has always been, and is still, I don't think the majority of people will ever do it, because the majority of people are clueless, and that's the nicest way to put it. So this is from Michael Saylor. Again, he always posts this comparison, or these graphs, or this chart here. Bitcoin is winning. So again, I'm not 100% sure, but I'm 95% sure this is something that he tracks that is starting ever since MicroStrategy, the company that he used to head, adopted the Bitcoin standard, or first bought Bitcoin. So again, we have Bitcoin up 432%, the S&P up 56%, the NASDAQ up 50%, gold up 7%, silver and bonds are both negative. So what is the point here? The point here is that Bitcoin is the best asset out there. Now again, he doesn't compare real estate, but I would imagine real estate is comparable to the market as a whole, probably even a little bit less, especially when you account for commercial real estate. Again, obviously that depends where you're at. Certain markets have done better than others, but that's irrelevant. There's nothing that compares to Bitcoin, and this is the fundamental thing that eventually it's going to be too hard for people to ignore. And this is the fundamental reason why I am so bullish, is that the vast majority of people still do not recognize this. The vast majority of the mainstream finance bros, if you want to put it that way, have not figured this out. And I believe, like I already mentioned, I don't think the majority will ever do it, because, again, like I said, I think that the majority of people would genuinely rather go homeless, or rather become homeless, live in a tent city, than simply admit they're wrong. And they don't even have to do it publicly. They just have to admit it to themselves. And the reality is that most people just aren't smart enough to figure out basic reality. But there's a significant minority that is smart enough. We are still at what, probably very low single digit percentage of people that have adopted it. And yet we still have got the absolutely insane returns that we have gotten. I don't know anyone in mainstream finance that is clearly bullish on Bitcoin. Not anyone. And that is one of many reasons to be absolutely bullish beyond belief. Now again, obviously this is my opinion. Do your own due diligence. I'm just giving my opinion here. But I think it's a very clear argument to make. And eventually, the fund managers are going to have to be forced to get with the times or lose their job. Because eventually there's going to be fund managers that take the leap of faith. Those fund managers will be rewarded handsomely because their funds are going to perform better than the other ones. And people are either going to move their money to them, or the other fund managers that are still too ignorant to adopt Bitcoin are going to adopt it. Because eventually, not most people, but enough people. My prediction is we probably never get past 50% of the population. My prediction is probably 20-30%. And again, the same thing goes for fund managers probably as well. Probably a little bit more on that end, but I'd say maybe 50% of fund managers will eventually get with the times. When that happens, we will see massive upside. Again, there are, I believe, 60 or 70 million millionaires in the world right now. And we have roughly 2 million Bitcoin left that will ever exist. How is that math hard to understand for people? Even if 10% of those millionaires decide, hey, I want a Bitcoin, it's not going to happen, because it can happen. It's mathematically impossible. So again, like you could make argument after argument after argument for why we still are very, very early. Again, if you want to put it in terms of a baseball game, I've said time and time again, I think we're in maybe the second inning, maybe the third inning. But we're not even halfway yet. I would say halfway is when it becomes normal for finance people and hedge funds and retirement funds, you name it, to allocate 1 or 2%. We get past that midway point when we get to maybe 2, 3, 4, 5%. We are not at inning 8, 9 until, like I mentioned before, you have that 60-40 bond or stocks to bonds. Once Bitcoin is in that realm, once corporations are allocating a percentage to Bitcoin without even thinking about it, once retirement funds are doing that, once hedge funds are doing that, once you name it, once that happens, then I'll be like, okay, we're probably not going to get anything better than market returns. But until then, we're going to see returns that dwarf the market. And to be quite honest, like the S&P, the NASDAQ, they've had solid returns over the last decade. They've had solid returns. But Bitcoin, I think still will double, triple, quadruple that over the next decade. Because eventually, more and more people are going to get tired of being poor. Or at the very least, they're going to want to be more wealthy than they currently are. Like if people have to choose between living paycheck to paycheck, or even, okay, maybe you're not living paycheck to paycheck, but you'd like to retire before 65, there's really only one way to do that. At least that's going to severely decrease the amount of time that it's going to take to retire early. And that's going to be Bitcoin. It just boggles my mind that these mainstream finance people are still sleeping on Bitcoin. And again, I can fully understand if you're not as bullish as me. I can fully understand that. But there is absolutely and utterly no reason on planet Earth that every finance, quote-unquote, professional, every corporation, hedge funds, retirement funds, shouldn't be allocating at least a percentage or two. Like there's absolutely no reason that should not be happening. Why? Look at the last decade's performance. Again, we are not talking about some fly-by-night penny stock here. I love, it just cracks me up so much that so many of these people still think of Bitcoin as these tech bubble stocks. It's just Peter Schiff still makes this argument. Bitcoin's in a bubble. You've been saying that for over a decade. Show me a bubble that lasted 15 plus years. I'm sure it's happened before. Again, these are the same people who said, oh yeah, Bitcoin did well because it did super well in a low interest rate environment. Again, unless you've been living under a rock for the last couple of years, we are currently in maybe not a high interest rate environment, but at least a moderately high interest rate environment. And look at the returns over the last couple of years. Look at the returns. Again, every single excuse that these people make is utter garbage. It's just pure garbage. And the fact that you have people that have economics degrees, hell, even some of these people have PhDs in economics. They've been financial advisors for 10, 20 years. Some of them even longer. And yet, some guy, again, I do have somewhat of a background in economics. I don't have a degree, but I did take it in college. But again, this is just something I like to do. The fact that some guy on the internet can run circles around these people. That is why you should be so bullish. These people are sleeping on the best asset of this generation. And again, people probably say, oh, well, what makes you think that you're ahead of the curve compared to all these quote-unquote professionals? And like I said, it's quite obvious. Number one, look at the past returns. Look at the future projections. What reason in the future do we have for Bitcoin not to do well? There's absolutely no reason. If anything, I would probably argue it's going to do better than the recent past. If anything. And again, the main reason, though, is the best arguments that these people can come up with are so easy to debunk. Again, like I say, the one podcast I always bring up, it's like these guys think that the average Bitcoin holder is your average Wall Street bets type. That couldn't be anything further from the truth. Again, there's some people, but the average Wall Street bets bro is gambling on altcoins. They're not hodling Bitcoin. And again, what happens when these guys figure that out? Is going to be so bullish, it's not even funny. And again, another very important point here is that, as far as I'm aware, I could be wrong on this, but Bitcoin has never hit a new all-time high pre-halving, and this is something that's happened. So, again, I don't see any reason on planet Earth not to be bullish. I really don't. The one big caveat, again, like I've brought up in the past, is the I don't want to admit I'm wrong factor. I think that's something that's really going to come into play here. Because, again, to the average person, even a lot of people that get it, it's very hard for them to understand. Like, hey, why do people want to be poor? It's because people don't want to admit they're wrong. Again, look at people's voting patterns when it comes to politics. I won't get political, but how many people out there vote for the same stuff over and over and over and over again, even though it clearly isn't working, but they insist on doing the same thing over and over again? Again, how many broke people that live paycheck to paycheck, do you genuinely believe that they've never came across a finance professional? They've never came across information that would lead them to not be living paycheck to paycheck. People that are super out of shape, do you genuinely believe that they've never gotten at least some half-decent fitness and health advice? The vast majority of them have. But yet they keep doing what they're doing anyway. So again, the vast majority of people, not the vast majority, the clear majority of people, probably 50, 60, 70%, will stay ignorant no matter what happens. But there is that small to medium-sized minority that will get it. And we are still at the low single digits. So I think we still have probably 10, 20 times more people that will want to get in than are currently in. So again, that is just my thoughts here. Again, Michael Saylor, I think, has done wonders. You have Nayib Bukele. I think Bitcoin University, Matt Cratter. He does a very underrated job as well. He should get more credit than what he gets because he's not talked about enough in the Bitcoin community. But again, these kinds of people have done wonders. And again, the last thing I'll leave it on here is when you look at the recent bear market, something like 70 or 80% of Bitcoin was not sold. So you have, whatever it was, a 70, 80% drawdown, and yet the vast majority of people did not sell. Does that happen in stocks? Does that happen in real estate? Off the top of my head, honestly, I have no idea. But if I had to bet, I would bet that if you had an 80% drawdown in real estate, more than 20% or 30% of people would sell. Same goes for stocks. I mean, have we ever even had? Maybe the Great Depression, there was like a 80% drawdown in stocks. Like even 2008, I don't think was that bad. Even in real estate, I don't even think it was that bad. So that is the point here. And again, over time, it's going to become less volatile. I mean, this is the one critique that I understand, but honestly, it still makes no sense because another good point is that another stat that I heard was nobody that's held Bitcoin for more than a 4-year period is down. And in stocks, that I know for sure that's not true. Same goes for real estate. So again, people are going to wake up eventually. For all the people that get concerned when you get, Bitcoin can go down 10, 15% in a day or a week for sure. And people get, oh my God, you're going to lose all your money. It's like, no. It's regular volatility. It's regular markets forces. My advice, again, just my personal opinion, do your own research, my opinion here, just dollar cost average and forget about the noise. Again, this is something that I personally strongly believe. If you invest in anything, but I mean Bitcoin especially, if I wasn't able to know the price, like if I wasn't able to know the price for 10 or 20 years, let's just say hypothetical, it was barred from me for and there was some artificial intelligence that was able to get that done, I still would buy the exact same. So the price is irrelevant. The price is completely irrelevant. So anyway, I could talk forever about this, but I've gone long enough here. I'm going to leave it there. If you like the video, please like, subscribe, and comment. Any feedback, very much appreciated, and stay tuned for more.